enabled.
Hello and welcome to GE and CNBC TV 18 presents Energizing India 2.0 Conversations on Oil and Gas, a two-part series that brings together key stakeholders to deliberate on the future of India's oil and gas sector, its need for digital transformation, and its potential to contribute to the exponential growth of our economy. Let's begin the show with a keynote address by Lorenzo Simonelli, President and CEO of Oil and Gas GE.
Thank you very much for joining us this evening. General Electric has been in India for many years, since 1902, and we plan on being here for a lot longer. And when you look at the company-wide, we have over 18,000 employees here in India. You could be asking, why is the CEO of GE Oil and Gas here? Well, we think that right now there's a great opportunity for the oil and gas industry in India. You know that globally we're going through a down cycle. This down cycle, though, represents a huge opportunity for India to take advantage of what's being seen globally, and also what an opportunity there is to really transform the way in which energy is provided going forward in India. One of the facts that always strikes me is India has 18% of the world's population, yet only consumes 6% of the energy. As India continues to develop, we know that that energy demand is going to continue to increase. We know that it also has to find a way in which it can move from importation of oil to really using the domestic resources and capabilities that have been around and have been identified over 20 years ago. At GE Oil and Gas, that's what we look to help with, is really provide the infrastructure and the capabilities for those opportunities to come forward. And partnering with yourselves in this room and also with the government and our customers on making sure that these projects go forward. As we look at the landscape today, we think that the right steps are being taken by the government. When you look at the gas pricing that has been set, when you look at the new exploration initiatives, the new licensing policies, these are all steps in the right direction. And when it comes to the economy and growth, we're also strong advocates of Make in India. And here an opportunity, as you look at the policies around oil and gas, the development of these new projects, there's the opportunity for localization of new technical capabilities, new manufacturing. We're a global manufacturer. We've got facilities also here in India that can help to support these projects as they go forward. What's necessary, though, is that we continue to move from the budgets being set into the final investment decisions being set forth, and also actively start to undertake the feeds on these projects. And that's going to help to spur growth within the local economies. And again, I can remind you that GE is committed to India and also committed to the development of the oil and gas industry. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, to further throw light on the oil and gas scenario in India, I would like to invite back on stage Lorenzo. And joining him in an exclusive one-on-one session is Shereen Bhan, Managing Editor, CNBC TV 18.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us here this evening. Lorenzo, I want to get started by asking you, we've seen what's happened as far as CapEx is concerned. CapEx has been cut across the board for large companies. Do you get a sense, at least from your customers, that we are possibly going to see a revival in the CapEx cycle, maybe in the second half of this year?
It's hard to say whether it will be the second half, it will be 2017, or some people may say 2018. There is an underlying reality, though, within the industry. And that is that there is a decline rate from existing wells. At some time, we are going to have new CapEx that enable some of these projects and also developments of the onshore so as to meet the demands. And what you're having is an aspect of supply-demand. Clearly, there's a correction that's taking place, And this industry has been through cycles in the past. Very hard to call the exact timing of it, but again, as we look at out the next few years, that balance will come back and we'll start to see a repricing and also CapEx starting to reemerge.
Okay, so as we wait for that global rebalancing to take place, let me now ask you about why you're so excited about India, and do you believe that at least as far as India is concerned, you're talking to your customers here, that we are going to be seeing a significant amount of CapEx, at least within the oil and gas sector here?
I think there's a unique opportunity when you look at India based on some of the policies that are putting into place, and also when you look at the aspect of transitioning from importation to domestic usage. And that's going to require these projects to go forward. And I think what you've seen from the government is really taking the actions that enable there to be a financial structure that is advantageous for these projects going forward. Having natural gas pricing, ensuring that there's exploration, licensing policy, all of this bodes well. And also the time in which we're in from an industry perspective, you're going to have a lot of the supply base that's interested in coming and playing as well. And so that's the ingredients, meaning now's an opportunity for India to be able to go forward with its projects.
So if I would ask you in terms of what more you would like to see from a policy perspective to ensure that some of the issues that we've had to grapple with in the past, which have really scared foreign investors from doing business in India, and they continue to be vexed by litigation, at least several companies continue to be in court or in arbitration over several issues related to doing business in India. From a foreign investor's perspective, what more would you like to see from a policy environment?
So I actually think the biggest aspect from a foreign direct investment that would be helpful, and also for us as a company that's providing equipment and services to the industry, is seeing the final investment decisions on these projects going forward. What we've got to have now is, with budgets that have been set, it's a move towards the execution side.
As you have your conversations with your customers and your clients here in India, both in terms of technology, in terms of affordability and so on and so forth, what are the key challenges that they bring to your notice, and what kind of forward movement can we expect on some of those issues?
So I think when you look at where these resources are, it's deep water. And traditionally, that's not an area of expertise within India. So we've got an opportunity to partner with the supply base and also with the customers in India to really develop deep water in a cost-efficient manner. Not bespoke, but provide some of the best tools that we've seen in other areas of the world, and actually provide standardized products, standardized solutions. Be able to utilize also enhanced oil recovery techniques onshore as well. All of this is actively available, and I think the down cycle that we've seen in the rest of the globe is actually beneficial to India at this time, because it means that you can take the best of what's come out of the down cycle and bring it in at a time in which the industry is very supportive of seeing new projects come through.
And when we talk about this energy mix in the context of India's energy security and energy needs, what kind of roadmap or blueprint would you expect?
We look at energy mix and also having a domestic policy around being secure in your own domestic energy as being very important. It also has to be taking advantage of all the elements of the energy portfolio. And that will require, over time, a mix of hydrocarbon as well as renewable, and a shift will take place over time. So you have a large abundance of coal that's very well known globally. You also have gas, you also have oil, you also have wind, you have solar. And there's an aspect of moving towards that green. And we think, again, in the short term, gas is the cleanest of the hydrocarbons that offers a great opportunity. At the same time, the country needs to continue to invest, and we're supporting that within the renewables aspect, as well as making sure we focus on clean coal. And it's very doable. You can go through this transition, but it will be a step process and require all of the fuels to be in place. And we're strong advocates. And again, the Global Technology Center, Research Center that we have here in India has a large focus on energy and the way in which we can provide that mix of capabilities.
Well, Lorenzo, thank you very much for joining us here. We wish you the very best of luck with your plans for India, and we do hope that the outlook that you have for the oil and gas sector here in India, your confidence and your optimism bears out in reality. Thank you very much for your time, and appreciate your comments here this evening. Thank you very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for Lorenzo.
Thank you.
Welcome back. You're watching GE and CNBC TV 18 present Energizing India 2.0 Conversations on Oil and Gas. And now it's time to welcome our chief guest for the evening. We have amongst us today Honorable Minister of State, Independent Charge for Petroleum and Natural Gas, Shri Dharmendr Pradhan. Sir, please.
Good evening, friends. India is the third largest energy consumer of the world. We know the limitation and the challenge that we have to, for a long period, we have to import hydrocarbon, whether it is crude, whether it is LNG, whether it is LPG, we have to import. But we have very clear strategy. We have to increase our domestic production. In the last 2 years, we have tried to shut out some legacy issues. We came out with new bidding round policy, hydrocarbon exploration licensing policy. We club different new models of the time, whether it is open acreage, whether it is uniform licensing, whether we should depend on the NDR, National Data Repository, or whether we should move towards the revenue sharing model. All these things are primarily how do we increase our production. India is substantially investing in overseas assets. Our PSU companies are very aggressive, whether it is Latin America, whether it is Africa, whether it is Central Asia, Russia. These are the area, and recently on my tour to Gulf countries, we are very much hopeful with a new kind of relationship with that area, with our leadership, primarily with Prime Minister Modi. We may have some footing in the Gulf countries for E&P sector. We are looking towards huge diversification towards bioenergy. We want to invest in our infrastructure. I am very thankful to my friend from GE. He is in a right time. But India has a robust and aspiring spending community for our yearly energy consumption will bound to grow for next 2 decades. If I go by IES report, IES observation, by 2040, this 183 million metric ton of this year, last financial year, went up to 550 million metric ton. Friends, our responsibility is also how to provide affordable energy to the common people of this country. We have to provide, we are committed to provide clean energy. We have changed the rule of the game. Now priority is consumer. Yes, interest of stakeholder is also important, but we can't shy away from the interest of consumer. We have to look into our investment plan. We got a window for sliding down of the oil price. Service industry is at our doorstep. Being a national oil company centric economy, can we use that window for our favor? That we are planning. We want to create new energy verticals. And finally, with this point I would like to conclude my speech. Friends, as I mentioned, this government has a philosophy. In our ministry, for the first time, since last 62 years, there is a LPG business model. Now after 62 years of this journey, India could penetrate up to 60% of its household in LPG connectivity. Friends, in last 2 years, we have initiated some new approach, new strategy. Now India is claimant, India is delivering the highest ever direct benefit transfer mechanism in the world. We are giving 150 million people direct benefit through their bank account. We are saving billions of rupees for our targeting subsidy model. Friends, at this conclave, this assessment, this brainstorming is at the right time. How do we look forward our energy map for future? I must congratulate CNBC for this great initiative. Thank you, friends.
May I request you to please stay back on stage for just a couple of minutes longer. I won't take more time, but since we very rarely get an opportunity to speak to you, so I thought this would be a perfect opportunity, given the fact that we're also celebrating 2 years of this government being inducted. Let me start by picking up where you left off. A lot of columnists have called you the unexpected reformer of the Modi government. If I were to ask you now to chart out for us the priorities as you enter year 3 of this government, specifically from your ministry's point of view, what would those be?
Shereen, this year we have decided to prioritize this year as year of consumers. Consumer is the center of our whole activities. India is providing primary energy, whether it is transport, whether it is domestic, whether it is energy from commodity like kerosene oil. These are the commodity we are committed to supply to the larger population of this country.
You talked about how the PSUs are going to be aggressive when it comes to acquiring assets abroad. I know that OVL has been doing some amount of work there. You also gave us a hint about the possibility of some diplomatic efforts paying off in the Middle East. How soon should we expect an announcement on that front, and what should we truly be expecting as far as the overseas acquisitions are concerned?
All are looking towards Indian market. We are taking advantage of our relationship with Russia. OVL got a very good deal in some of their investment plan, and not only OVL, some of our other PSUs are also eyeing on Russia. And we are very actively, Prime Minister is visiting Mozambique. I have been to Mozambique last year. When I looking to the world scenario, due to market and due to decisive leadership of this government, Prime Minister Modi, there is a lot of enthusiasm among the investors.
I won't tie you down to a date, but in this financial year, can we expect some announcement on the acquisition front?
Certainly.
So since you're talking about this being the year of the consumer, one of the problems that all of us here in Delhi especially are talking about is the issue with emissions, the pollution issue. Now when you talk to auto manufacturers, they say that we can't upgrade to BS6 and so on and so forth because oil marketing companies don't give us the requisite fuel. Can we expect that by 2020, oil marketing companies in the country will be ready to provide higher standard fuels?
There is absolutely unanimity with auto sector and refinery sector. Last 3 months back, in the leadership of our Transport Minister, Honorable Gadkari ji, he took one meeting. He involved Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Heavy Industry, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. We come out with a very clear roadmap. By 2020, Indian refinery will be producing BS6. Auto sector is aligned with that strategy. They are also preparing themselves, and all our refinery stakeholders are preparing themselves. By 2020, Indian refining will be producing BS6 standard of oil and oil. We are very much aligned with the co-stakeholder. And regarding Delhi, let me inform you another thing. By end of this month, we will be adding with another 100 new CNG stations.
Okay.
And we have a capacity up to 80 lakhs kilogram per day delivery capability on daily on CNG. So we have our responsibility and we are 100% prepared to face any kind of eventuality if all the diesel vehicle will be banned. We are ready to provide clean diesel to them also. We are providing BS4 to Delhi market. That's a clean fuel. By next 2-3 years, we will be providing BS6. That is a cleanest fuel. Beyond that, we are ready to provide abundant amount of CNG in Delhi market.
Well, that's great news, sir, and I'm sure that this will give a lot of relief to consumers here in Delhi. I have a feeling you're not going to answer this question, but I'll try my luck anyway, sir. The government has talked about strategic divestment. Any candidates from your ministry that are going to make it to that list?
There is nothing to hide. Some of our company have divested last financial year. ONGC is one among the company who government want to divest through the according to SEBI guideline. But we are waiting for the right time.
Mr. Pradhan, thank you very much for taking our questions. Thank you very much for our time. Congratulations to you, sir. And we truly appreciate you joining us here this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause.
That's all on this episode of Energizing India 2.0. In the next episode, we will bring you some exclusive conversations that took place with the key stakeholders and industry stalwarts. Until then, thanks for watching.
Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.